Ynet are the only men who would understand my frame of mind. At present, I argued to myself, I am strong and a match for 6 of these wretches. It is imperatively necessary that I should, for my own sake, keep both health and strength until the hour of my release comes, if it ever does. Fortified with these resolutions, I ate and drank as much as I could, and made Gunga Dass understand that I intended to be his master, and that the least sign of insubordination on his part would be visited with the only punishment I had it in my power to inflict, sudden and violent death. Shortly after this I went to bed. That is to say, Gunga Dass gave me a double armful of dried bents, which I thrust down the mouth of the lair to the right of his, and followed myself feet foremost, the hole running about 9 feet into the sand with a slight downward inclination, and being neatly shored with timbers. From my den, which faced the river front, I was able to watch the waters of the Sutlej flowing past under the light of a young moon, and compose myself to sleep as best I might. The horrors of that night I shall never forget. My den was nearly as narrow as a coffin, and the sides had been worn smooth and greased by the contact of innumerable naked bodies, added to which it smelled abominably. Sleep was altogether out of the question to one in my excited frame of mind. As the night wore on, it seemed that the entire amphitheater was filled with legions of unclean devils that, trooping up from the shoals below, mocked the unfortunates in their lairs. Personally, I am not of an imaginative temperament. Very few engineers are. But on that occasion I was as completely prostrated with nervous terror as any woman. After half an hour or so, however, I was able to once more calmly review my chances of escape. Any exit by the steep sand walls was, of course, impracticable. I had been thoroughly convinced of this some time before. It was possible, just possible, that I might, in the uncertain moonlight, safely run the gauntlet of the rifle shots. The place was so full of terror for me that I was prepared to undergo any risk in leaving it. Imagine my delight, then, when, after creeping stealthily to the river front, I found that the infernal boat was not there. My freedom lay before me in the next few steps. By walking out to the first shallow pool that lay at the foot of the projecting left horn of the horseshoe, I could wade across, turn the flank of the crater, and make my way inland. Without a moment's hesitation I marched briskly past the tussocks where Gunga Dass had snared the crows, and out in the direction of the smooth white sand beyond. My first step from the tufts of dried grass showed me how utterly futile was any hope of escape. For as I put my foot down I felt an indescribable drawing, sucking motion of the sand below. Another moment and my leg was swallowed up nearly to the knee. In the moonlight the whole surface of the sand seemed to be shaken with the devilish delight at my disappointment. I struggled clear, sweating with terror and exertion, back to the tussocks behind me, and fell on my face. My only means of escape from the semicircle was protected with a quicksand. How long I lay I have not the faintest idea, but I was roused at last by the malevolent chuckle of Gunga Dass at my ear. "I would advise you, protector of the poor," the ruffian was speaking English, "to return to your house. It is unhealthy to lie down here. Moreover, when the boat returns, you will most certainly be rifled at." He stood over me in the dim light of the dawn, chuckling and laughing to himself. Suppressing my first impulse to catch the man by the neck and throw him onto the quicksand, I rose sullenly and followed him to the platform below the barrows. Suddenly, and futilely as I thought while I spoke, I asked, "Gunga Dass, what is the good of the boat if I can't get out anyhow?" I recollect that even in my deepest trouble I had been speculating vaguely on the waste of ammunition in guarding an already well protected foreshore. Gunga Dass laughed again and made answer, "They have the boat only in daytime. It is for the reason that there is a way. I hope we shall have the pleasure of your company for much longer time. It is a pleasant spot when you have been here some years and eaten roast crow long enough." I staggered, numbed and helpless, toward the fetid barrow allotted to me, and fell asleep. An hour or so later I was awakened by a piercing scream, the shrill, high-pitched scream of a horse in pain. Those who have once heard that will never forget the sound. I found some little difficulty in scrambling out of my burrow. When I was in the open I saw Pornic, my poor old Pornic, lying dead on the sandy soil. How they had killed him I cannot guess. Gunga Dass explained that horse was better than crow, and greatest good of greatest number is political maxim. We are now republic, Mr. Jukes, and you are entitled to a fair share of the beast. If you like, we will pass a vote of thanks. Shall I propose? Yes, we were a republic indeed. A republic of wild beasts penned at the bottom of a pit, to eat and fight and sleep till we died. I attempted no protest of any kind, but sat down and stared at the hideous sight in front of me. In less time almost than it takes me to write this, Pornick's body was divided in some unclear way or other. The men and women had dragged the fragments onto the platform and were preparing their normal meal. Gunga Dass cooked mine. The almost irresistible impulse to fly at the sand walls until I was wearied laid hold of me afresh, and I had to struggle against it with all my might. Gunga Dass was offensively jocular till I told him that if he addressed another remark of any kind whatever to me, I should strangle him where he sat. This silenced him till silence became insupportable, and I bade him say something. "You will live here till you die, like the other Ferengi," he said, coolly watching me over the fragment of gristle that he was gnawing. "What other Sahib? You swine! Speak at once, and don't stop to tell me a lie." "He is over there," answered Gunga Dass, pointing to a burrow mouth about 4 doors to the left of my own. "You can see for yourself. He died in the burrow as you will die, and as I will die, and as all these men and women and the one child will also die." "For pity's sake, tell me all you know about him. Who was he? When did he come, and when did he die?" This appeal was a weak step on my part. Gunga Dass only leered and replied, "I will not, unless you give me something first." Then I recollected where I was, and struck the man between the eyes, partially stunning him. He stepped down from the platform at once, and cringing and fawning and weeping and attempting to embrace my feet, led me round to the burrow which he had indicated. "I know nothing whatever about the gentleman. Your God be my witness that I do not. He was as anxious to escape as you were, and he was shot from the boat, though we all did all things to prevent him from attempting. He was shot here." Gunga Dass laid his hand on his lean stomach and bowed to the earth. "Well, and what then? Go on." And then, your honor, we carried him to his house, and gave him water, and put wet cloths on the wound, and he laid down in his house, and gave up the ghost." "In how long? In how long?" "About half an hour after he received his wound. I call Vishnu to witness," yelled the wretched man, "that I did everything for him, everything which was possible that I did." He threw himself down on the ground and clasped my ankles, but I had no doubts about Gunga Dass's benevolence, and kicked him off as he lay protesting. "I believe you robbed him of everything he had, but I can find out in a minute or two. How long was the Sahib here?" "Nearly a year and a half. I think he must have gone mad. But hear me swear, protector of the poor, won't your honor hear me swear that I never touched an article that belonged to him? What is your worship going to do?" I had taken Gunga Dass by the waist, and had hauled him onto the platform opposite the deserted burrow. As I did so, I thought of my wretched fellow prisoner's unspeakable misery among all these horrors for 18 months, and the final agony of dying like a rat in a hole, with a bullet wound in the stomach. Gunga Dass fancied I was going to kill him, and howled pitifully. The rest of the population, in the plethora that follows a full flesh meal, watched us without stirring. "Go inside, Gunga Dass," said I, "and fetch it out." I was feeling sick and faint with horror now. Gunga Dass nearly rolled off the platform, and howled aloud. "But I am Brahmin, Sahib, a high caste Brahmin. By your soul, by your father's soul, do not make me do this thing." "Brahmin or no Brahmin, by my soul and my father's soul, in you go," I said, and seizing him by the shoulders, I crammed his head into the mouth of the burrow, kicked the rest of him in, and, sitting down, covered my face with my hands. At the end of a few minutes I heard a rustle and a creak, then Gunga Dass in a sobbing, choking whisper, speaking to himself, then a soft thud, and I uncovered my eyes. The dry sand had turned the corpse entrusted to its keeping into a yellow-brown mummy. I told Gunga Dass to stand off while I examined it. The body, clad in an olive-green hunting suit, much stained and worn, with leather pads on the shoulders, was that of a man between 30 and 40, above middle height, with light sandy hair, long mustache, and a rough, unkempt beard. The the left canine of the upper jaw was missing, and a